Hello, traders, and welcome to the weekend update for July 13th, 2025. So before I get into the market update, I just want to give you a heads up that a little later in this video, after I analyze our markets, I'm going to share a concept trade idea with you that fits in with our current market conditions. So make sure you stay tuned and check that out. So let's take a look at our main indexes here. We're going to start, of course, with the S&P 500. Before I get to that, yeah, I'm still in crazy glasses mode. Doctors still want me to wear these for eye strain. So I'm not sure how long that's going to go on. It does seem to help a little bit, so you're going to see me and I'm off and on here for a while. But anyhow, the S&P 500 has largely chopped sideways in this past week after it did do a little bit of a breakout. Now, it's doing that on lower volume overall. It's not uncommon to have lower volume in the middle of the summer, particularly around holiday weeks, things like that. A lot of the professional trading firms in New York are shut down at this point. We haven't gotten into our next earnings season, so it just tends to be a little bit quieter time in the market. So we have continued to rally strongly after that tariff news of some time back, but we haven't yet gotten into this big, massive channel that's been in place now for months and months. The question is, are we going to be able to pop back into this channel and kind of resume this trend? I don't know the answer to that. Right now, I'm thinking largely sideways. I'm pretty neutral on our market. And again, we're quieter going into the summer months. I think we're just going to see a chop sideways here, at least for the next 30 days. So that's my expectations on the SPX. SPY, of course, is going to look exactly the same because it's just 1/10 of SPX. So it's going to be the exact same chart patterns, etc. The S&P futures are going to be very similar as well. So what about volatility? Volatility for the S&P 500 is very low. There's no real fear in our markets right now. There's not people out there buying insurance on their portfolios. Now, with some of the escalation in tariff news that's been ramping up over the weekend, I don't know. We'll have to see what Monday brings here. It wouldn't surprise me if we did get a little bump in volatility on Monday, again, based on some of the news that's been circulating out there over the weekend. Then we look at the Qs. The Qs are very similar, but they are back into this big, huge range that had been playing out for many months. So they're back kind of right in the middle of that, but they did break out to new highs here, ran up a little bit, and now they're chopping sideways a little bit as well. Again, also my expectation on the Qs, the volume has fallen off in that process. So the rally up doesn't really have what I'd call steam behind it anymore, at least not at this point. And so I'm expecting largely a chop sideways there in the Qs also. Volatility for the Qs, very low as well. So again, going to have to see what Monday brings on that, but right now I'm expecting volatility to also probably stay low while the market chops sideways for another week or two. Let's take a look at IWM. Now, IWM, I feel a little bit differently about, and why? If we take a look here, we've got all this sideways chatter that happened for a long time. We're just entering that right now, so I feel like there's going to be a zone coming up in IWM also. And again, that zone is probably going to be here in that 228 or so range, maybe down to around the 215, 220 range, somewhere in there. Also, volume has been reduced during this time also because it hasn't broken a new high, something that has broken out to new highs. There's certainly a much stronger chance that it can run higher. Something like this that has all this prior chatter and resistance in that area is less likely to just blow through it. Doesn't mean it can't do it, but less likely. So again, I think the probability of a chop sideways in IWM is higher than the probability of a chop sideways in the other two. And then what about volatility on the IWM? So volatility is still very low in that as well. So at the beginning of this, I told you that I was going to have a trade that I would share. These are paper trades. concept trades for educational purposes only, based on what I am seeing in the market. So what would I do in this particular situation in our markets if I was looking at a trade? I'd look at some sort of a range-bound trade on IWM. If my expectation is that this is the one that's probably more likely than the other two to stay in a range, I might look at a condor position, an iron condor position. So in this case, I'm going to sell a 220 put, and then I'm going to buy a 215. I'm going to sell a 226 call, buy a 231 call. So this is what's called a $5 wide iron condor. It's $5 wide because these two wings are $5 wide. Now, because I've got $5 in risk, so that's a $500 risk on the upside if we run to the upside, and on the downside if we go to the downside. Of course, when we can't hit both, but I've got risk on one side of this trade if the market breaks out between now and July 25th. So this is essentially just a 12-day trade. That's because I'm expecting to chop sideways probably over the next 10 to 12 days. I won't necessarily carry this to expiration. If I get a decent amount of profit in this, probably in that 50% profit range, I would look at going ahead and shutting that trade down. Now, let's look at the stats on this. I would be taking in a net credit of $257. Remember, $5 wide, so I had $500 in risk. But if I take in $257 in credit for selling my insurance, and then again, I'm buying reinsurance here from somebody else. So I have $500 in risk. I'm taking in $257 in credit. That leaves me with a max potential loss of $242. If the market were to plummet down and be down here at expiration, or if the market were to rip up and then be up here at expiration, that's where my risk is going to be. But my break evens, I can come all the way down to 217 and still be positive. I can go all the way up to 227 and still have profit in this trade at expiration. So I've got a 47% chance of profit. My gain is a little bit more than my loss. So this is what I would call close to around a 50-50 trade, just looking at the math. So what tips the edge on this for me? What tips the edge on this for me is the actual chart pattern itself. The fact that my chart pattern is telling me that we're going to likely chop sideways. So this is all of the math on the exact trade here that is not factoring in the likelihood that we're going to chop sideways. So this is where technical analysis and understanding how to read a chart comes into play. That's where I feel this trade might have a little bit of an edge, is that psychologically we're in the doldrums and a little more likely to go sideways. Based on that, I feel my chance of profit is significantly higher than 47%. So that's where options trading comes into play, as I not only look at the specific math of my trade, the fact that I have $500 in risk, I'm taking in $257 in credit, means my max loss is going to be $242, but I'm also looking at the likelihood of the market staying within this range of my break evens. And in this case, I think that's higher than normal. So I'm going to go ahead and save this trade, and that's an IWM Iron Condor, and I'm going to call it Weekend Update 7/13/25. And I will put this in the description below so that all of you can click that link, open it up, look at yourself, and see what your thoughts are on it. Do you feel the same, or do you think, you know what, I kind of like this, but I think it might break to the upside, so I want to tighten my upside wing on this? And you don't have to have an option strat account. This will open up this trade for you. You could come in, play with it, model your own trades without having a subscription at all. So take care, everyone, and I'll look forward to seeing you next weekend. Now, those of you that are part of the alert service, let me walk through my trades in the alert service. And at the end of this, I'm going to place a link that I think you're going to be really interested in to see how strongly one of my new trade designs is performing. So make sure you look for that. Right now, this last week, I closed out 4 trades in the alert service, but I closed out these 3, and this was a 3% gain. That happened over about 11 days. This one was a very small gain because this one, I had to do a few adjustments on it. Anytime you do an adjustment, you have to lower your expectations as to the outcome, the profitability of that trade because of slippage and things that go along with making an adjustment. But it still was a profitable trade. And then this one was a nice over 8% profit in 2 days. Again, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you this trade. You'll be able to see the actual videos I put out to my students in the alert service where I explain this trade and how it played out. Look for that. So those 3 trades were all closed for a profit. I did have a long leap that we had held in Lucid Motors for some time, and I finally just decided to pull the plug on it. It was down a couple $100 and just simply wasn't moving the way that I wanted or expected it to move. And then in addition to that, we have these 2 trades opened. I opened a brand new Flyagonal. Now the Flyagonal is my number 1 performing trade right now. I developed it over the past year. I started trading it live 8 weeks ago. So far, it's got 33 out of 34 winners. So I put on 34 trades of this Flyagonal concept. 33 of them at this stage have been winners, and they've gained about $10,000 in value over the last 7 to 8 weeks since I started trading them. And again, just put on a new one in the alert service here just Friday. And then also this trade, PayPal wheel trade, I rolled out my short put this week. After I did that, PayPal took a pretty hard drop. Not sure what's going on there, but I'm okay getting assigned PayPal. I'm willing to hang on to that long term. So those are the 2 current trades open in the alert service, and I will be looking to add at least 1 more this week. And if you like what you're interested in the alert service, be sure to check out this video where I go into more details on my number 1 trade, the Flyagonal, and how you can watch me trade that live real time in the alert service. Take care, everyone.